In August 2012, a team of 7 assembled at the colonial-style city of Santa Cruz in Bolivia. Our aim was to carry out community aid tasks, examine an archaeological site, and list the wildlife of an area around the Rio Beni in the northeast of the country. Thanks to the kindness of Dr. Carolina Hanley, we based our advance party at her house. Carolina owns the Santa Cruz International School, and the pupils have been encouraged to collect books and some medical supplies to distribute to villagers in need along the route we were taking. They had amassed several tons by the time we arrived, and Yolima Sipagauta, the Latin American representative for the Scientific Exploration Society and Just a Drop, had to hire a large truck to get this load and the other donated items to Riberalta, which was 3 days' drive to the north. We were especially interested in the strange double-nosed dogs that are sometimes found in South America. In 2005, we had discovered Bella at the village of Oaxaca and realized that Colonel Percy Fawcett, the legendary British explorer, had not been making up the story when he described seeing such dogs in 1913. He called them the double-nosed Andean tiger hounds, tiger of course being the name for jaguars. The dogs appear to have an increased sense of smell. Later, Bella had a litter, and one of the pups was named Zingu. We also found dogs with similar noses in Chile and in Europe, and I'm told that police forces are interested in using them to detect narcotics and explosives. Carolina had found another dog in Santa Cruz, which we examined. He was rather sick and sadly died the next day. But this gave the opportunity for Carolina's vet to examine him properly. The double-nosed Andean tiger hound, she said, is a rare breed of dog seen in the department of Beni. In Santa Cruz de la Sierra, Bolivia, the veterinarian, whose name was Dr. Jimena Bolivan, used x-rays and autopsies to confirm that the division between the two nostrils is profound. The double nose appears to be a normal dog's nose, but with the nostrils deeply separated by cartilage in the nose structure. She found that the band of skin and fur dividing the nose all the way ran down to the dog's upper lip. This dog is not a different species, she said, but should rather be considered a genomal anomaly resulting in the malformation of its nose. However, she agreed that many people believe the double nose increases their scent discrimination ability. However, there is no solid research to indicate whether this is the case, nor is it evident that the double nose is a benefit or hindrance. I hope to do further research into this elsewhere in South America with such dogs in the future. Once the team had arrived, we flew north on an Aerocon flight to the city of Riberalta on the Rio Beni. The airline kindly allowed us some excess baggage, which was very necessary.
Welcome to Riberalta. It was a pleasure flying with Aerocon.
Here was Julian Butter, our civil engineer, and Dave Smith, our quartermaster, and Peter Kohler, the navigator. Now we've arrived at Riberalta, the main town of this northern part of the Beni region, and from here we shall be going to the various project sites both on and around the Beni and on the Rio Madidi. Yolima had set up our base at the old Hotel Colonial, and they looked after us very well indeed. The violinist Claire Roff, who had been on a previous expedition in this area, had kindly provided 2 violins for us to give out. And it was here at the Hotel Colonial that we presented one to a local student who was becoming a very talented musician. We were also able to acknowledge the enormous help the Simon Patino Foundation had given us for this and many other expeditions in Bolivia. Next to the hotel is an extraordinary house belonging to an eccentric artist, which has sculptures and murals depicting local history. One unique feature of Riberalta are the phone boxes depicting wildlife and strange statues designed by this eccentric artist. One depicts a motorcycle, which is especially appropriate as Riberalta is alive with motorbikes, which also serve as taxis. From Riberalta we were to go west to the archaeological site and then also to the first villages we'd come to help. The departure from the Colonial Hotel was on a marvellous collection of motorbikes that are going to take us across the river to the ruins of the city of Las Piedras.
Here is our team. Okay, we are ready for the departure. Everyone is in the motorbike. And then on to Las Piedras.
En el camino ya, entonces vamos adelante.
Yes.
At the Rio Beni, we took the ferry to the north side of the river, which is in the province of Pandu.
Those are our motorbikes. This was our lovely team for Kota 8 Expedition 2012.
With us was Sonia Suarez, the wife of Walter, a very keen Rotarian and our main supporter in Riberalta.
Sonia is coming here. Hello Sonia, thank you for coming with us. She's Bolivian Walter's wife. How was the ride, Peter?
Hola, ¿qué tal?
Hola. How do you like the ride?
It was good. It was
Excellent.
nice.
Yes,
It was
yes.
the first biker game.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, you know, wonderful. Riding motorbike in Bolivia.
Yeah.
We just crossed the Beni River and are coming into the port, which is near Gonzalo Moranes, and we're now going to turn right and head for the ruins of this Inca city that we first saw during the Kota 3 expedition.
Say how many motorbikes we brought, John. Hello, Peter. Hey, our quartermaster and our Dr. Mike. Mike, how do you like the ride?
Brilliant.
Yes?
Absolutely brilliant.
Wonderful. Okay, this is Carolina talking by phone. I don't cover. Just arrived. And motorbikes are coming out from the ferry. It costs 3 Bolivianos per person.
With us was Mike Elkin, our medic, but he's a man of many parts. He was also an archaeologist and a pianist. The river is well filled with water, but during the rains it rises right to the top of this bank. In the little village near the archaeological site, we were able to examine some interesting artifacts. And this is a significant site which clearly merits investigation. Whether it is in fact an Inca fortified settlement, or if there's any evidence of a military expedition into the region, remains undetermined. It could also represent a settlement from an earlier population known as the Tiwanaku, with its roots near Lake Titicaca, which of course we'd explored in the past. We know that the Tiwanaku were approximately there around AD 200 to AD 1200, and they were the longest running Andean culture and influenced a massive area. They predominantly grew from a culture not force, and were experienced stonemasons and experts at using reed boats. It is incredible and heartening that it was actually earlier Kota expeditions that demonstrated the potential of reed boats to travel great distances down these very rivers, and that this site may actually represent a trade point and stopover for a pre-Incan culture that came there using reed boats.
Have been found either by locals or by the Finnish expeditions in 2001, 2 and 3. The geometric designs that we can see painted on or carved into the pottery itself is characteristic of Inca, suggesting that there was definitely an Inca interest and a fortress based on the stone ruins in the Amazon basin, which up until 10 years ago it was thought that the Incas had stayed primarily in the highlands and had never ventured this far into the lowlands. So it's quite a significant discovery.
At the site, we examined the ancient walls of this settlement. What did the Finns reckon this was, apart from the damage?
Ok, le pregunto.
Tomás, y sí, y hasta el Madre de Dios. Y hasta el otro río, medio Madre de Dios, ¿qué distancia?
Está cerca de aquí, está como... Bueno, ahora que el río se ha ido para allá, ¿no?
Okay.
Va avanzando siempre las playas, ¿no?
Se ha cambiado.
Estamos hablando de unos 2.000, 3.000 metros.
Ok, muy cerca.
Cerca, pero más antes era
Yeah.
bien como esto.
Entonces era...
Aquí unía.
Ok. Era más o menos igual para cada
Sí,
día.
sí.
These are Las Piedras. A wonderful site. We came here 7 years ago. And Mike, he was measuring.
We're looking here at the remains of a wall that was probably part of the fortress. What we can see exposed here is 2 meters of roughly put together igneous rock from the local riverbeds. It's probable that it was a lot taller. The guide reckons possibly up to about 7 meters. And if we look down, we can see how steeply it goes into a dugout moat type area. So as a defensive wall, this would have been quite spectacular, probably.
And it would have gone along this side of the fort and linked up with a ditch that we passed earlier to form part of the defence. But it was quite a substantial size. It was a good few acres inside the walls.
to another side because the jungle is very dense, then we couldn't get inside. But we are going around the main walls. There is Sonia, and she is our guide as well. ¿Cómo fue, José? ¿Que los incas se venían acá a refugiar?
Sí, o sea que ellos tenían
In times of war,
una
the
muralla allá.
people would come from the forest and take shelter in the fortress that they built here.
Estaban ya avasallados, ellos tenían esta otra protección.
And this would give them the best protection
Esto se llama trinchera.
when they were under threat from other
Ellos
tribes.
le llaman trinchera.
Okay. Also, they said they call this a trench.
They call these strange.
Por eso que tiene salida hasta el río y este va de salida hasta el mar de
The walls would extend from one river to the other river to form a natural boundary.
Perfect.
Get the measuring tape out and extend it to the maximum height because it's rigid.
So Mike and Peter surveyed the wall and the ditch and made the measurements of the structure.
That's about as good. So we're looking at about 3 meters 60 from there.
But it's to the
Oh, I found it so terrible.
Yeah. I'm looking at this and it looks so much like the terracing that they have in Spain, coming down the mountainside. But it may just be terracing at the back, but also have a little tentacle. But all of a sudden now we're extremely high again.
Yeah.
The same thing, how many meters do you think that this was?
I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, maybe the same 7 meters, or it's kind of a pattern, or
There's not a lot
no?
of stone either,
I think
so it's
it
not
was
a lot.
the distance between the ditch and the wall would have potentially been about 7 meters. This, I think, went straight down to the river because that's where the river used to be.
Yeah.
So this is maybe slightly higher in comparison to the river bed, but the river would have been obviously a few meters. So great.
Something's killed that and eaten it out.
Laid its eggs inside it.
Yeah.
The guy came from. So when you get
Here is Julian swinging. Whoa!
that night, we returned to Riberalta, but the next day we moved across the ferry once again, this time in four-wheel drives provided by the alcalde of Gonzalo Moreno.
Mike,
So at the moment there's 3 rafts on this river with 3 individual 4x4s, one on each raft.
amazing.
And this just seems the standard way of getting your car from one side to the other.
Yes,
And effective. Very effective.
yes. Have you seen that before?
No, I've not quite like this.
Oh, yes.
Carolina Hanley was our dentist and had done much to support the project.
With our expedition, Kota 8. Yeah, what do you think so far?
Huh?
What do you think so far?
It's been crazy organizing everything, but here we are going now, and I know it's gonna be great.
¿Cómo vas? Jaime is the assistant of the alcalde of Gonzalo Moreno. He came with a vehicle and collect us, and then now we are heading to Gonzalo Moreno. ¿Está contento?
Sí, sí, bien contento.
Bueno, es la primera vez que se lleva este tipo de ayuda a Gonzalo Moreno.
Exactamente.
The alcalde's vehicles took us to the village of Gonzalo Moreno, where we set up our base.
Then here is the old aid that we would like to take to America, Villanueva, part of the aid actually, Villanueva, 6th of August.
In the community centre we sorted out the stores, including a great variety of medical items collected by the children of the Santa Cruz International School. We noticed they'd included a stock of Viagra. They said it was to keep the Indians happy.
Quantities. Yeah.
Looks like a mobile chemist shop. Well, what we've got here are a huge quantity of medical stores that have been donated by laboratory IFA and also by some of the staff of the Santa Cruz International School. Mike and Peter and Carolina have been sorting them out into lots to go to the various villages, and tomorrow, if we're finished by dawn, we will be taking these to the health posts upriver. Is this going to be of real value to the people, do you think?
Absolutely, yeah. So what we're doing now is just dividing, we're going to visit 3 villages tomorrow, so we're dividing the medicines that they can use directly, things like paracetamol and ibuprofen, and multivitamins. So we're dividing that into 3 so we can give it direct to the villagers, and then the rest of the medication will go to a kind of central clinic that's about 10 kilometres away from the nearest village, and that will hold on to the medication that's sort of prescription medication. And they'll be able to access that there. So, yeah, this will make a real significant improvement.
How do you find, from what you've seen so far, the health of the people in this area?
Varied, definitely varied. Bolivia as a whole has is one of the poorest nations in South America, and overall there's quite a lot of poverty, and that's especially true in things like child mortality. It's got the highest child mortality rate in South America. Although Santa Cruz, where this medication is from, is actually quite affluent. So the local area though is in dire need of this kind of equipment, and especially things that treat parasite infections from drinking dirty water. Yeah, that's one of the main ones that we hope to. A lot of trauma, a lot of, especially in some of the villages that we're going to, there's a lot of stomach and digestion problems, mostly due to drinking water that isn't adequate and is quite dirty. And yeah, lots of parasites as well, and the usual things like malaria. Dengue fever is particularly prevalent in this area at the moment.
History was given to us by the alcalde of Gonzalo Moreno. We have some people who are helping us to load all the medical, educational gifts and donations for these villages, for medical and dental.
Next day, the alcalde's truck arrived. To economize, the 6-wheel vehicle had no back wheels. It sagged a little.
Departure from Gonzalo Moreno. That is one of the vehicles, our driver. And here we are, all our team. It's a nice team. Julian, Mike, and la doctora Carolina Ibáñez de Hanley. And Dave, good people, good bunch, wonderful. On to America!
We're going to see the water project in America Village.
Excellent. What are they doing there?
What are they doing? They're putting in a filter system,
Yes.
clean existing water, and they started work 2 days ago. We're going to have a look.
Very well.
Oh, good, good. What are we going to do today?
See the teeth of the people where we're going.
Okay.
Scratching teeth.
All right.
Yeah, really pleased. So some medicines going direct to the community, and some are going to sort of a makeshift pharmacy.
Yes.
With a nurse who can distribute them appropriately.
After an hour, we arrived at a Medica village and set up a clinic. At the Medica, we are carrying out a dental surgery, and Mike Elkin is briefing the village nurses on the drugs kindly provided by IFA, and this has had overall support from the Patino Foundation. Most of the patients here are children, and we're going on this afternoon to another village and to deliver more medical supplies.
Dosis por día.
Dosis por día.
Sí.
Tiene que tomar un comprimido cada 8 horas.
One pill for every 8 hours.
Yeah. Well, 6 hours.
6 hours. 6 horas. Una cada 6 horas.
So, four in one day.
O sea, 4 en un día, ¿ok?
Whilst Mike distributed the medicines, the children played chess outside.
¿Estás bien? He said that he's playing chess and he's thinking if he goes or not goes.
Now is the presentation of books and educational material to the school at Comunidad America.
Que se rían, a ver, me van a decir 17, 27, ¿están contentos con los libros? A ver, ¿contentos?
These are gifts for you from the Santa Cruz International School and also from the Scientific Exploration Society and the Foundation Patino. Now we are at the village of Villanueva, presenting more books and school material. These are SAEJA indigenous people.
Para todos estos años y que ustedes puedan aprender mucho.
Thanks to Just a Drop and the Institute of Travel and Tourism, we were able to install filters for the water system at America's village. The work was done by Sumajwasi Foundation, with whom we've worked in the past.
Ya le estamos dando la bota ya. ¡Vamos, muy pendiente! ¡Viva las muelas sacadas!
We are now at the clinic at Contra Valicia, and here we have the doctor who looks after this area, not only this village but others. Doctor, are these medical supplies that we have brought from Santa Cruz going to be useful for you?
Bueno, primeramente presentarme, soy la doctora del centro por el momento que estoy estudiando.
The doctor is very grateful for all of these medicines provided by the Expeditional Laboratory IFA, because this health post is just the health post for many communities. Many communities, they come here to get assistance by the doctor, the medicines, and they are very grateful as well because they can provide all of these medicines to Villanueva, Contra Varicia, America, 6 of August, and many others that they come here to get assistance by the doctor. And they are going to start to build more shelves in order to put all of these wonderful provisions and donations from Laboratory IFA and the School of International School of Santa Cruz.
Y esta temporada viene ahora el tiempo de frío, la gente se enferma mucho de enfermedades de gripe.
Peter, you seem to have had a rough journey. Is that all dust or is that your sunburn?
I think it's the Bolivian suntan. So you got a white line. There's my tan line there. Bronzing quite well. I think I'm doing pretty good.
A little village called 6th of August that last year was completely wiped out by the flood. And we went to visit it, they were in a terrible condition, The people were living under tarps. They were short of everything. They had no clinic, no school, and very little food. So now we're going to see where they're building the new village and take them as many supplies for the school and also for health that we possibly can.
It sounds really good, and I think we'll be setting up a couple of solar panels as well, possibly there to supply some power to the newly built school.
Oh, excellent. And some books and material for the...
Yeah, some school books and some materials for the children and some toys. I think it would be really good, especially if they've been devastated from the floods. It'll help them rebuild, I think.
Are you ready to go for 6th of August?
I am ready to go. I am going to buy some stores and supplies ready.
We now had to move our stores along a jungle trail to the Rio Beni.
The lorries stopped for... Oh, here we go.
It's a very jungly area, as you can see, very thick, and at the moment the temperature must be 25 degrees. Solar panels all day.
Is bringing them as close as possible to the edge of the cliff, down which we've got to lower them onto the beach, and hopefully at any moment a pecky and a tin boat will arrive to carry them downriver to the village called the 6th of August.
This is another boat that is going to River Alta.
Now this is the cliff down which we've got to lower all our stores onto the beach for transport to the village.
Got 2 solar panel systems. And we are expecting to put them, we need to find a school or a community business building in which to put them, so that they will have some light.
We had to take great care with lowering things like the solar panels, which are quite fragile, and this chute was Dave's idea. So we arrived at a Medica village, and this was the place that was so badly flooded last year.
Muy bien, perfecto, eso está bien.
The village is being rebuilt because last year in the flood everything was destroyed. From their makeshift school, the children greeted us.
Mi
Carolina has got all her instruments out, ready to start extracting teeth from the people of the 6th of August. Now, the village doesn't look that different to when we were last here. There are a few more traditional buildings, but they're still, of course, living under tarps as they were in April 2011 when we last came here. But the children have just given us a wonderful welcome with a traditional song, and now they're going to have their teeth taken out.
What did you have yesterday
In total,
in America?
I had like 20 patients,
Wow.
half adults and half children. Really, there were no special cases. They were just teeth that some of them could have been saved if we could have done root canal treatment. But special cases, not really. I extracted 2 roots and 2 teeth that they were with a lot of cavity. We say rotten.
Yes, yes.
And she was with pain.
Yes.
That's why I extracted 4 teeth.
Thanks to Enersol SA and Batibol SA of Santa Cruz, we had a solar kit sufficient to provide electricity for a small village. Julian, Peter and Dave installed this in a few hours.
Yeah, we're just I'm just tightening the bolts up now, securing them down, and then in a second I'll go outside and we'll attach it to the post. We'll just put up on the north side of the school. Julian's just sorting out the wiring, and we're going to wire the lights up along here. They have a generator, but a lot of the time they don't have the fuel for the generator. So the solar panels in. They'll definitely have power whenever they need it. And we're just putting a battery in at the bottom there.
Y la gente se entusiasma. Julian Butter and Peter outside, where we have the solar panel. That's excellent. They built it in one day.
The other one.
Properly. We have the light.
So it's special thanks to Enersol.
Yes. Enersol and
Enersol.
Toyo batteries.
The batteries, yeah. They gave us 2 power units. The one in the church, which you saw we set up earlier, and the one here. Dave and I, mainly Dave, did the electronics, did the wiring up of the lights. Get a post up, put one of the panels on the post. At the same time, we put a panel on the roof up there, if you can see it.
Yes.
And then while me and Dave were doing the wiring in the church,
And the church.
Julian was working in here, setting up the control panel and the battery and that. And when Julian had finished with that, we came in and did the wiring and hooked up the light bulbs.
It's kapok. It's used for life jackets and making pillows and stuffing mattresses and...
Excellent. We have plenty here.
It's the seed of the kapok tree.
This tree is the one that...
You get them in Bardia too.
Kapok tree.
Right, this is the a new school that's being built with government money. It's going to consist of 2 large classrooms, and it's well underway. There's quite a lot of work still to do. And right at my feet in the grounds we saw a hand-dug well that has gone down 14 meters but has not yet struck water, which is an interesting indication of the problem, even though they're so close to the Beni River, only about 100 meters away. Meanwhile, Mike and Carolina had some patients with a very nasty disease.
Leishmaniasis ulcer, so caused by Leishmaniasis parasites. The treatment is with this drug, which is quite painful to inject. So to start with, we're just injecting local anaesthetic around the site. and then we're going to inject this, which will treat the infection and will clean and dress the wound as well.
Okay.
And leave some of the medication to treat it with her, so that this can be given regularly for the next 5 days or so.
Okay.
Which we hope will treat it very well.
As always, we presented books for the school, and many of these had been collected by the Santa Cruz International School.
Village that was totally destroyed by floods over a year ago, and these are the first books they've had for their school.
Medio sorpresa no han tenido, pero en otra cuando puedan ya vengan, si Dios lo permite, lo vamos a recibir con mucho más, ¿no? Discúlpenos por no darle como debe de ser, ¿no? Pero nos sentimos muy contentos de tenerlos aquí.
At the end, the village presidents thanked us for our kind gifts. Clearly, they were very grateful for the help.
Gente de la unidad educativa y conjunto con mis alumnos, estamos muy agradecidos con este material que nos ha llegado, que nos han traído como donación cada uno de ustedes, que ha sido posible de tan lejos traerlo hasta aquí y que va a ser muy bien aprovechado por cada uno de los estudiantes, tanto para que ellos aprendan a leer, aprendan a escribir y sea de un buen provecho para ellos. Estamos contentos y muy agradecidos a cada uno de ustedes.
So we returned to Gonzalo Moreno and crossed over the River Beni on the ferry again and went on to the next phase. And we just had time to celebrate Carolina's birthday at the Suarez new grapefruit warehouse. The poor girl had to suffer the Bolivian tradition.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, my.
In Riberalta, Julian took the opportunity to visit the nearby village of Ibon de Palmera, where the supply of clean water is urgently needed, and hopefully Just a Drop may be able to assist them in the future. But our next phase was on the Rio Madidi, a tributary of the Beni. We had installed a water system here at Ohaki in 2007, and also provided them with a pedal organ. Both items were said to be in need of repair, so we set out on a 400-kilometer trek to this site. We'd hired a couple of four-wheel drives for this trip and loaded them with rations, school books and medical supplies, and also reading glasses. And we set off from Riberalta on the 3rd of September. Because diesel can be used in the manufacture of narcotics, a special permit was needed to carry it, and that meant delays whilst the Bolivian Navy and local administration provided the necessary paperwork. 2 hours out of Riberalta, one car's wheel bearings went. Luckily, Yoli could summon help from the owner of the vehicles in Riberalta on the satellite phone, and a replacement car duly arrived. However, this meant we were delayed by 4 hours and the temperature then was 42 degrees centigrade. So we reloaded the replacement car and set off once again. We turned off the main road at a village which in view of the red dust was appropriately named Australia. We headed towards the village of Cavinas on the banks of the Rio Beni. The sun was setting and we knew ahead of us there was the Rio Vakiti, and no one knew if it had a bridge or a ferry. Dusk falls fast in these parts, and motoring on in the dark, we got stuck in a swamp. Luckily, Dave had a tow rope. To add to our problems, we noticed a bushfire sweeping towards us, and we were lucky to find a turning off the trail that avoided us and led to a rough hacienda where kindly cowboys directed us to a diversion around the swamp and the fire. But it was 9 p.m. and we reached the Rio Faghetti in the black. Looking across the darkened river, we could see no bridge or any ferry. Yoli managed to find a canoe and crossing the 80-foot of flowing water went off to the nearby village. She returned to announce that if we would set up a clinic for the people, the chief promised to build a bridge for the cars in 3 hours next morning. Neither Julian nor I, as engineers, could believe this. However, swallowing a cold supper and swatting swarms of mosquitoes, we pitched our tents. At dawn, local hunters appeared carrying a giant fish that they'd caught and kindly gave us some for our lunch. As Dave cooked pancakes at dawn, we noticed a black pickup truck parked in the trees. Ominously, there was a bullet hole in the windscreen, and the seats appeared stained with blood. The villagers stated that 10 days earlier, the car and its passengers, a local family, had been set on by bandits who had stolen motorcycles from a nearby ranch and were trying to escape. When the car driver refused to take them, they had opened fire, murdering his wife. Somehow the police were alerted, and in a following gunfight the robbers were killed. By now, Carolina, Mike and Yolima had set up a clinic in the village school, and amazingly the village men plus wives and children appeared at the river. Swimming into the flowing brown stream, the newcomers heaved up huge thick pre-cut planks of hardwood around 35 feet in length that were resting on the river bed. Now lying in front of us, there was a prefabricated bridge, which, when not in use, simply lay underwater. Whilst the men struggled with the giant timbers, their children dived off the logs, women washed clothes in a scene rather like a seaside outing. However, just as the chief had said, within 3 hours there was a bridge over which the cars could be driven. It was held together by its weight with no bolts or fastenings. This really was the most incredible piece of civil engineering I've ever seen, said Julian.
To the boat. We are in Baketi. We arrived last night, very late, and now it's almost 8:15, and we are thinking to go to the other side of Baketi in order to give medical assistance and dental assistance.
Meanwhile, our medical team and Yolima set off to run a clinic in the village school. Inglaterra. Inglaterra? Is it Inglaterra?
Él es de Inglaterra. Y les está mostrando dónde queda Inglaterra.
Colombia.
Él les está comentando que yo soy de Colombia y les está mostrando en el mapa dónde queda Colombia.
We had time to give a geography lesson, whilst Carolina and Mike were at work.
English. Okay, we are here.
Any roots?
Okay, this is one of the cases that Carolina has, and she's going to describe this difficult case. Carolina?
She had for a long time the root was inside the palate. You could barely see it, and all the maxillary jaw was reabsorbed. She has no bone, so now I have to clean it well. Give her some antibiotic.
Yeah.
To avoid an infection, and also.
Carolina had to take 13 teeth out from this poor woman. So we pressed on to Cavinas, a little Bolivian Navy port on the Rio Beni, where we expected a pecky canoe from Oaxaca to meet us. From Cavinas, we were to go up the Rio Madidi to Oaxaca. Thankfully, the boat was there. So we loaded up, and next day, as the sun rose, we set off.
Carolina, can you just tell him that it's a fragile, that one?
Julian Butter. Good morning, Julian.
Good morning, Ollie. Okay, John, yes. Thank you. All right, I will.
Are you okay, Dave? Yep. How are you this morning?
I'm fine, thank you.
In Puerto Cavinas this morning?
Yes.
Buenos dias, Yoli.
Muy buenos días.
You ready for a river ride?
Absolutely. Ready for Oaxaca. It's going to take us about, how many hours did they reckon? I think maybe 8 hours.
8. My chair.
Now we are ready to leave Cavinas on the great voyage to Oaxaca and beyond. Up in the bow we have Peter, the navigator. The chair they've given him is about 6 sizes too small. And then we have Irvin from Sumajwasi, and then we also have a boatman who I hope is going to look for logs, and then Carolina, who is ready to pull out all the teeth of the Indians.
Yes.
And this is a 17 meter pecky. And in the stern we've got Julian Butter, the engineer, Dave, the quartermaster, and Mike, the doctor, and the boatman. And that makes up the complement. And now it's going to be a long haul up a winding river, first of all up the Beni and then turning north onto the Rio Madidi.
Carolina, do you expect to do any dental treatments or dental extractions in Esperanza de Madidi?
If there are people, of course, I would like to, because they rarely get a dentist. So I'm very pleased to see there's some patients.
The river's quite shallow, but luckily has only one rapid before Haki.
Welcome to closet.
The rapids were not very high, but it was a struggle to get the heavily laden boat up against the current. But after several attempts, we made it.
There's a little bit of stop here.
With a heavily laden boat like this, quite a difficult one to get up. Anyway, he managed it. We're on our way again. After the rapid, we stopped at a village to see what medical help was needed, and found that this was the regional capital of the Rio Madidi area.
The regional headquarters at Esperanza del Madidi, and we are observing the latest development in a sugar crusher. The sugar cane has been crushed between these great wooden mill wheels, whilst a little Chinese tractor is being driven round and round and round, rather like oxen used to do it in many parts of the world, and in fact still do. This is an innovation which I've not seen before. Good invention.
Expedición Kota Mama 8, 2012.
Very soon we arrived at Ohaki, where the school had prepared a welcome for us. The flag is raised and the national anthem sung every morning. Then came recitals and traditional dancing.
Estamos reunidos en este lugar, los niños quedan muy agradecidos. Ya algunos niños, muchos de ellos, perdón, ya han salido a otros lugares.
Mi bandera tricolor, cuando la veo flamear en los brazos de los mártires, mi corazón palpita fuerte, con sus colores daré mi vida. Con penas y alegría canta mi tierra de corazón, canto a mi patria de corazón.
Every day the children do a daily run to keep fit. The link with the outside world is a simple CD radio, and it was through this that we were able to contact our old friend Matteo Nichols, a deeply religious American with his German wife who had settled on the river. They have obtained government permission to stay and raised 13 children, all educated by a lone teacher from America. We had hoped to reach their homestead, but the river was too low. So in the end, Matteo and 3 of his sons and the teacher came down to see us. Meanwhile, we had other visitors.
Look at that beautiful thing. What arachnid. Oh,
Lovely
it's
spider.
moving. Absolutely gorgeous.
And he's going to sleep with
Do
David.
you think that is? Do you think it's a black widow?
Yes, and she's after David. Going to David's bedroom.
Dave, as intrepid as ever, was not worried by this little fellow.
My goodness. It's a black widow.
As Yoli cooked breakfast on the 7th September, we heard loud screams ringing out, and 80 white-lipped peccary, one of the most aggressive animals in the jungle, appeared at the edge of the village. The men seized their guns, spears and bows and rushed to drive the vicious beasts out. The fight lasted a few minutes, but ended up with 7 of these dangerous pigs being killed. Fortunately, no people were injured. Otherwise, the team saw relatively few wild animals.
In 2007, the Kota expedition installed a dam at this creek and a submersible pump. And this was powered by a generator, and the water was pumped along these white pipes up to the village and up into the tower that we also built of reinforced concrete pillars, went up to a height of over 30 feet, and it was a hell of a construction job. Very sadly, as one can see now, it's not been maintained. The dam is broken, the pipes are scattered around, and it's not a sad reflection on the ability of the villagers to maintain these sort of developments and assistance that we give. The problem is, I suppose, lack of training and just the organization.
This little girl drew a picture that we can show to our friends at Just a Drop. It was to show really what clean water means to them. The organ that we'd bought from Dorset needed repair, but hopefully one of Matteo Nichol's sons may be able to help, as he's a very skilled carpenter. However, the accordion we'd bought in before was still playing well. And we presented another violin to one of the students. A very fine violin given by Claire, Clarita as we remember her, who came here and taught people to play the organ and also the violin. Mike Elkin will also give a few lessons, and hopefully this lady will become a leading violinist. We always hold a Burns supper at the end of an expedition and use Ken Staley's splendid tinned haggis, which we bring from Scotland. Dave's job was to kill the haggis.
Trails bright like Ongi ditch, and then, oh what a glorious sight, warm, reeking, rich. Then horn for horn they stretch and strive, they'll take the hindmost on they drive, till their wheel-walled kites belvy are, bent like drums. The old guildman mayst like to reeve, be thankit hums. Is there that Ori his French raggot, or Uli that wad store a sow, or fricassee wad mac o spurn, we prefect Sconnor, looks down with sneering scornful view, or sick a dinner. Both and arms and heads will sneed, like taps o' thistle. Ye powers what maketh man your care, and dish them out their bill of fare. Old Scotland, once nae thinking where, that jumps and luggies. But if ye wish her grateful prayer, gie her a haggis. Now we applaud.
Matteo's family had now joined us, and they had a pretty remarkable story to tell with many fascinating tales.
It's basically liver. It would,
Oh,
it,
it
would,
ruins your
it
liver.
would ruin your liver. And if you take it with alcohol, like in England, I see so many suicides where they take loads of these and loads of alcohol.
And like
There's no way to it.
there's no.
Outside of the United States also was an eye-opener for me all these years. I didn't understand what a free country was or what a righteous nation was or anything like that. Now I kind of see things differently. Came and looked and we liked it, so I just packed up and came.
And when you arrived, there was nothing there. It was just...
No, we just put up a tarp and started in with a machete. Brought some rice.
Good. And so how many years ago was that?
9 years.
And now you've got 13 children, and you've got quite a homestead.
Yeah, we've got a nice
you're very self-sufficient.
Yeah, we produce all of our own food. We just buy salt, ammunition, and gasoline.
And you've got a teacher with you, so you can do self-education.
Yeah, that's also very important for the children.
How do you manage with the medical side?
The Lord's protected us pretty well, and the people here know a lot about medicinal plants, so we learn quite a bit. Fortunately, we haven't had any big situations. Charlotte had malaria and we took her out to the clinic, but other than that, there hasn't been much. One of the boys got bit by a snake one time, and I didn't know at the time if it's poisonous, so I lanced it. You know, like in the movies. Nothing happened to him, so it turned out all right.
It wasn't poisonous?
I don't know, because it was so long ago, I can't really remember even what snake it was.
I remember you told me the story about the anaconda stalking one of your boys.
Yeah, they killed that thing now. Yeah, we've had a lot of experiences with tigers and anacondas, stingrays and things like that.
Is that a big anaconda?
8 meters long.
8 meters.
Where are you coming from?
I'm from Campo Bravo.
Campo Bravo. Oh, Mateo's farm.
Yeah, from Mateo's
Yeah.
farm.
And you do some work there with the children, is that correct?
Yeah, I teach the children, I help them, I have a garden, and I help in the fields.
Oh, how beautiful. How long have you been with Campo Bravo?
9 years.
9 years. Wow. Absolutely, you are part of the family.
Yeah, I'm like part of the family.
Yes, you are.
What food are you growing now?
Everything that grows here, just about. Everything that we can get seed or... We learned that the plants that are native to here are better than to try to bring in some kind of hybrid seed from outside, like these little cherry tomatoes. They've got a kind of onion here that doesn't produce a head, it just produces a stalk, kind of like a leek. All that stuff grows real well. Cucumbers, watermelons, carrots we grow, bananas, papayas, pineapples, coconuts, mangoes.
And you got your pigs and your cows and
chickens.
And a horse?
Horse, yeah, we plow. The people here don't plow, you know, but I like to plow. I like to try to use the same piece of land and use crop rotation. I really learned a lot about agriculture here.
Yes, it's interesting that local people don't plow the land.
It's because they've got such abundance of land, they just clear. But it's more productive to plow it, and it's less work, and it's less dangerous. You don't have to depend on rain to burn off the chaco, to burn off the field. You can just plow whenever you want. And the crops do better, I think. And it's more, there's more of a future in that, you know, intensively working a piece of land instead of just continually clear, slash, and burn. I think it's better for the soil, too.
And Puma and...
A lot of that kind of stuff. But you know, in Germany or in the States, I think more people die from getting run over or automobile accidents than it's relative. The danger is actually less. You know, I've been in car wrecks too in the States, which were worse than my encounters with jaguars.
You see many jaguars up there?
You know, now that there's no sale for the leather anymore, they're multiplying. So there's actually a lot of them, like never before. And since people don't shoot them like they used to, because they're endangered species, they're starting to get arrogant. They're not afraid of people, which I think is bad. I think it would be good if they'd open, at least in the area where the people are raising cattle, a time to sell leather a little bit so the people would reduce the numbers a little bit. The parks got enough. If they would just raise them in the park, then we don't need them running around here. It's not true that they don't attack people. There's a number of people that have been attacked by jaguars around here. My boy was attacked by a puma.
Yeah.
It was a bird he was trying to shoot when he was hunting a little type of grouse type of thing, pheasant, and when he went in there, there was a puma coming the other way also after that bird, and he went through this bush, and the puma pounced right at him, and he happened to be able to shoot it right at the last minute. We've got it on that video, I'll show you.
Wow.
Was that with us?
Going down the rapids, we decided to unload the boat to be on the safe side, but it got through without incident. Reaching the little naval port at Cavinas, there was another clinic to run, and then it was going back to the Rio Beni. I prayed that the bridge was still in place. Luckily, the bridge was still in place. This is the bridge that the villagers have prepared at Biaka, and it's a prefabricated bridge of hardwood that, when not in use, is sunk on the river bed. It's not held together with anything other than gravity, and the pier in the center has been grooved to take the road bearers, which are made of very hard wood indeed, and are bowed to take the strength. Since we crossed the other day, the river has dropped about 6 inches and is still flowing fairly steadily, and I suggest it's probably at the lower end of its annual level now. And when this bridge is finished, the logs will simply settle back down onto the riverbed, and they're so heavy they don't appear to be swept away by the flood. But it is a pretty remarkable sort of achievement for a small village to have a prefabricated bridge that can be built. The actual building of the bridge took just over 3 hours, with 30 people working, mostly up to their necks in water, all laughing and having fun, with the children jumping off the bridge, people washing their clothes. It was obviously a great event, and rather like a family outing at the beach. We also had to use long planks to cross some of the soft patches in the swamp. So the expedition headed back to Riberalta. There was one last clinic and some more books to distribute at Cavina School before crossing the prefabricated bridge at Vaquete. It has been a challenging time and something of a miracle that so much help could be given to communities in need along this great Amazon tributary, but the mission had been accomplished. At Carolina's house we had our farewell, and here an Indian quartet came to play Baroque music. It seemed rather appropriate, and the end of a very successful expedition that had helped so many poor people.